Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to Sleuths Unleashed, unraveling criminal cases with your podcast hosts Victoria Kennedy and Susan Gonzalez. In this podcast, we dive deep into the world of crime solving, exploring both the mysteries that baffle and the breakthroughs that inspire. Whether it's cold cases, unsolved disappearances, or the innovative techniques that crack the toughest puzzles, we bring you stories that captivate and challenge the mind. Join us as we uncover the truth, one case at a time. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and let's get sleuthing.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Sleuths Unleashed. And today we're going to be covering the JonBenet Ramsey case. And we're going to be discussing all the aspects of that case and where it's been, where it's going, and if there's anything that we can come up with on the case file. So let's go ahead and start.
So I have to say, this case has actually been very, very interesting. I guess we can actually say intriguing since day one. We have a little girl who was found in the basement in her home, and the parents had no idea where she was at. So, I mean, as a parent, right off the bat, I definitely have to say there is something else going on just with those parents alone. But let's kind of dive into this. So I'm going to kind of start from the beginning. JonBenet Ramsey, she was found dead in her home in 1996. And again, she was in the basement. She was 6 years old at the time of her death. And even up to now, her case remains unsolved. So I know that on our introduction, Susan and I, we were kind of talking and letting you know how we kind of work and everything. And Susan has been into true crime ever since I met her. So chances are it's probably been quite some time. I've been involved in true crime, but I kind of look at it as a different perspective because since I am a medium clairvoyant, I look at things through, I guess we can say through a different view. So as much as I really, really, really just want to say, boom, 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 I can't. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, pretty much start from the beginning. So December 26, 1996 at 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey calls the police to report that JonBenet is missing. He tells the police she found a handwritten ransom note, which is by far extremely suspicious. And apparently this ransom note was on the kitchen table, demanding $1,118. And I'm sorry, it's not $1,118. It's $100,018. But the thing with this is that, first of all, why is somebody going to leave a letter on a kitchen table demanding, we're not saying like $20,000 or $200,000. I mean, this is a very odd number for somebody to request, like a ransom note. So that by far definitely leads me to feel that there is something that is owed to this person. But again, we'll get further into that. So the Ramseys, they end up calling the cops. Their friends come over as well. In regards to the police, a forensic team totally seals off JonBenet's room. But they don't do that to the entire home, right? They only have one portion of the home pretty much squared away with as a crime scene, which again was her room. So about 1 o'clock, the police asked John Ramsey, which is the dad, and a friend to search the home. Okay, now granted, the police are already there. They've already done their search. They didn't find anything out of the ordinary. So when the police asked the dad and a friend to search the home, they begin in the basement, out of all places. Okay, they go downstairs, they begin in the basement where they find the body of JonBenet. She's in a room that was previously overlooked by the police. She has duct tape over her mouth, a cord around her neck and wrist, and she's partially covered by a blanket. So, she has duct tape over her mouth and a cord around her neck and wrist. Obviously, They don't want her moving. They don't want her having any sounds coming out of her mouth whatsoever. And she's partially covered by a blanket. So this to me is telling me that there is some type of remorse going on. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, because I think they laid her down and kind of covered her up. It's almost like they just left her there covered up nicely. So I don't know if it was like that they weren't intending to kill her or that it was an accident. And so they just wanted to make sure that she was left in like a safe, kind of like a safe space. I'm not quite sure.
There's so many theories, right, that have gone around in regards to how JonBenet Ramsey has died. There's apparently, they were having some type of a dinner that day or that evening, and there's this whole conspiracy about there was pineapple on the table, but nobody knows how the pineapple got there. I mean, there's so much kind of going back and forth, and I really, truly, honestly believe that there's so much he said, she said, and everybody is pointing the finger because ultimately the ball was dropped. The police went in. They pretty much screwed up. First thing they should have did was walk this entire house. And why did the police ask the dad and the friend to search? That's the part that is a little bit confusing to me. And this whole, the parents are the ones who killed her. Then it goes from the parents to the son. And it just kind of continues on and on. The parents end up blaming a friend, apparently some friend or someone who like dresses up like Santa Claus and he was there. And the sad thing is that the person who knew about this has been there all along, but people have failed to see that.
Well, in some aspect, that like the pineapple, we know that it was on the table, but nobody knows how it got there. But she had it in her stomach, so that was really strange too. Because in the autopsy report, it does say that she had pineapple pieces in her stomach, or that they assume that was pineapple pieces, like however they tell when they do the autopsy reports. But like you said, they did fail. As soon as it was, they knew that the girl was gone. Even if it was a kidnapping, they should have blocked everything off. I don't care if they think that she wasn't in the house anymore and she disappeared, and everything should have been blocked off from the get-go. There shouldn't have been any friends allowed. Didn't they allow like tons of friends in the house too? I mean, it wasn't just the two friends. It was like
No, they
everybody
did.
was coming in and out of that house all day.
Yeah, because I guess to them, they needed that emotional support.
The
But
case should have been better than that, knowing that she was taken from the house. That obviously makes it a crime scene from the get-go. I mean, there wouldn't be no other reason for that not to be a crime scene.
you would think, right? You would think, but the more people that come in, every person that comes in is already pretty much disturbing the crime scene. If John Doe comes in and 5 minutes later Jane Doe comes in, I mean, any evidence has already been pretty much washed out.
And any of those could have been a suspect. I mean, what if they're coming in knowing that the police are allowing it to put their hands all over the place so that it narrows down the search pool too? Because how are you going to separate them from just being friends to somebody that could have been possibly in the house that night and taken her, or attempted like they were going to take her?
This is a really, really sad story. I'm actually reading the coroner's report. So this is what they're saying. They're saying initially the body was viewed in the living room of the home. So this is going to be after she was found from the friend of the dad's and the dad. The descendant was laying on her back on the floor, covered by a blanket and a Colorado Avalanche sweatshirt. On removing these two items from the top of the body, the descendant was found to be lying on her back with her arms extended up over her head. The head was turned to the right. A brief examination of the body disclosed a ligature around the neck and a ligature around the right wrist. Also noted was a small area of abrasion or contusion below the right ear on the lateral aspect of the right cheek. A prominent dried abrasion was present on the lower left neck. After examining the body, I'm assuming it's the coroner because they're saying I, left the residence at approximately 8:30 p.m. Approximately at 8:30 p.m. So this goes to show that she has already been missing for quite some time. And I want
Right.
to say it was like about 1 o'clock. Is that what I said? About 1 o'clock when her body was found. Let me see. When the dad and the friend went to go and search for her.
Yeah, it was in the afternoon. It was like not too long after. I thought they were waiting for like phone calls is what they were waiting for because it said that, you'd hear from us or whatever in the letter. And then they never heard. And then so the police sent them to look around the house again because they had already looked once.
At 1 p.m.
Yeah.
At 1 p.m. So my questions are, where did this blanket come from? The blanket where she was, partially covered with. Was that blanket in the basement? Did that blanket come from the room? Did anybody know where this blanket came from? And then once they brought her from the basement into the living room, did they still have her covered with the same blanket? Or was this a different blanket? Like, I have so many questions about this blanket.
Right, because you don't know if they automatically, that would give you kind of an idea if the blanket was pulled from the room. Like if she was carried from the room
Exactly.
in a blanket already, or if that blanket was found somewhere else and they just covered her up with it and it wasn't a blanket from her room.
Exactly. And not only that, but was this blanket, matched for any type of DNA? Was there any DNA on that blanket? Was there any, hair follicles on that blanket that maybe belonged to somebody who does not reside at the home?
I mean, again, that's where they messed up by allowing the dad to go search because he automatically just grabs her and runs her upstairs as soon as he finds her. I mean, of course, your thought process at that time, I'm sure, is not thinking, oh my gosh, this is a crime scene. It's more of, there's my daughter, I'm going to save her, and not realizing that she's already gone. So you're kind of panicking.
I can't even imagine as a parent. Well, first of all, I cannot even imagine my child going missing. Second of all, I cannot even imagine going somewhere and finding my child lifeless. I cannot even imagine the feeling of picking up your lifeless child and taking him or her to the living room where the cops are at.
Right. I guess you would think my mind's not working.
I
So I
know.
just kind of grab her and take her because I don't know what else to do. Like, there she is. Like, you just want to help her. But I mean, that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to think about it.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, I step on my son's foot and I feel bad. you know,
Right.
I can't even imagine. I mean, she's a 6-year-old girl. Aside from this, was this kind of, I don't want to say orchestrated in some way, because I don't want it to make it seem as if the parents are the killers, right? Which we're going to get to that. So, you know, by JonBenet being in all these shows and all these pageants, you know, her hair all done, all this makeup, was this a setup? Because let's remember, wherever there are kids, there's going to be pedophiles. Even at Disneyland, or the most happiest place in the world, there's going to be pedophiles. There are going to be sick individuals who want to get off looking at little girls or looking at little boys. So who's to say, and like I said, it's just a theory, who's to say as she was in all these pageants that somebody, like, she didn't, maybe she caught somebody's attention and they kind of started following her around on those pageants unknowingly.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, they were ahead of their time, really, a little bit, because I think nowadays you see that happen all over the place with these kids and being dressed up and pounced around because back then, after this happened, everybody's like, oh my gosh, look what she did, look what she did. But it's way worse now. Of course, the difference that they dress them in like all-star cheer or dance or gymnastics and different things like that. So I mean, it could have been anybody. That makes the whole thing bigger because you have people that were at these shows watching things. I mean, you have people that you know sitting next to you that you've been friends with for years that could have done something like that to somebody, or end up being, the ones that are married to the killers, or people that have done crimes that don't know anything about them and they're with them every day. So you have no idea in the room who's sitting there watching.
When my son, when he was born, because of what I do, I do work cold cases and missing persons cases, and I wouldn't say that I was overly paranoid, but my thing was, you are our responsibility. It's like, if we're going to put our life on hold because if we get invited somewhere and we can't take you, then we're just not going to go. If we don't know the people, or if there's going to be too many people around, I'm not going to feel comfortable. Therefore, we are not going to go.
Right.
Another thing at the same time was, who are these people who we don't know? And the other people have kids. So to me, they're kind of putting everybody else's children in danger. That's how I look at it. You can think of the most nicest person, or think somebody is so nice. They could be this serial killer. They can be this pedophile. They could be, who knows what.
Yeah, you just don't know who to trust these days. It's hard. I mean, like I said, you could have been friends with somebody for 20 years and not know the person. They could be hiding a totally different side of them. You've seen these people that can have two different lives and nobody knew about it. It's hard to figure out people.
No, it is. And my son, he's 16. He's a second-degree black belt. He can totally take down anyone, but even though he's still 16, he is still a boy. And, if he wants to go to somebody's house, I need to know who the parents are. I need to know who's going to be there. I need to know, are there any firearms in that home? And I literally need the names of the people who are in that home. And I literally run a background on them. And my son thinks it's hilarious, but I'm like, no. It's like, it's not funny. It's just, you are my responsibility and I need to protect you. So that way, there isn't a scenario where he's not going to feel he's in control of.
Well, and that takes us into the case, because you think about, she was at home. So you're not really thinking that something's going to happen like that in your own home.
Yeah.
Where you can control the aspect of outside the house. But when you go into your house, you think you're safe and that's your space. But then here she is just laying in her bed, and all of a sudden somebody comes in, takes her, and does what they do with her down in the basement, which we don't know exactly everything that they did, but the scary part is that they came into the home and was able to do all of this while everybody was home. But it also is a big house too. So you probably don't hear as much either. I don't know, from where her room was to the parents' room was like up another stairs. So there was like another level. So it's hard to say too when you're in your own home. And maybe it was somebody that she knew, so it didn't scare her right off the bat either. She didn't think anything of it because she's familiar with them.
It's a friendly face to her.
Right.
So as time kind of went on, they obviously felt that the Ramseys were the ones that somehow had some type of involvement in this. They had their lawyers, and it kind of got ugly. Then it went from, as I mentioned earlier, went from the parents then to the son, who the son was in bed. And, it just kind of continued on. Things got worse. Things escalated. It became a who said, she said, just as I mentioned earlier. And there was lawsuits. I want to say that the Ramseys actually ended up suing them. It looks like in 1999, they filed the first of several defamation lawsuits against people and companies that have reported on the case and suggested that the parents were the cause of their daughter's death. It just goes on and on. But if we really truly look at the overall aspect of it, okay, so this is where my mediumship is going to come into play, right? So anytime somebody, and before anybody decides to kill the messenger here, let me just kind of break it down. Anytime somebody has any type of physical illnesses within their body, so we're going to go to the mom. We know that the mom ended up getting cancer, okay? So anytime somebody has something going on and they're holding back, they don't want to say something. They know the truth, but they don't want to put it out there. So somebody who's keeping such a big secret, such as the mom, is going to pretty much get cancer. Now, does everyone who has like big secrets or angers or emotions bottled up get cancer? No, not everyone. But 9 times out of 10, the people who do have cancer, they have some sort of unresolved anger issues going on, right? Like they're mad at something, they're mad at themselves, they're mad at another person. They're mad at their childhood because of whatever actually happened. So this is what I am feeling. And again, this is it's kind of coming from like the mediumship side of it. So do I feel that the parents had anything to do with JonBenet Ramsey's death? Yes and no. So does the dad have anything to do with his daughter's death? Absolutely not. Does the son have anything to do with the death of his sister? Absolutely not. Does the mom have anything to do with the death of her child? Absolutely. So, whomever has killed JonBenet Ramsey, this is going to be some type of a caretaker, somebody who maybe did work around the Ramsey's home. And whoever this person is who did any type of work, I'm going to have to say a handyman because that's what I'm hearing right now is a handyman. Whoever this handyman is, there was some sort of some sort of intimacy going on between him and the wife. I don't know if it was like a one-time type of a thing, meaning they hooked up, they had sex, or if it continued on over the time, over the years, I guess we could say. Um, was this just a person who went to the Ramsey house one time? I don't know. Was this a gardener who's also kind of like a handyman? He can fix things up, in that aspect. That I don't know. All I know is that he's considered a handyman. And once these sexual relationships began, she knew, meaning the mom knew, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this. She was so devastated from an emotional state. What am I doing? How come I'm doing this? Why am I doing this? But at the same time, she was also missing so many different dynamics within her own relationship. Right? I think the dad worked a lot, if I'm not mistaken. The dad worked a lot. I don't think she worked at all. I think she was like a stay-at-home mom. So think about it. If you're a stay-at-home mom and you have this big luxury house, the house is beautiful. You live in this beautiful state of Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, which I mean, the homes in Boulder, Colorado are huge and they're very pricey. So of course, you're the main person, the head of the household, and you have to work. And this is, you're trying to provide for your family. Your wife is a stay-at-home mom. She's not working. She's taking care of the kids. Then, little things here and there are going to add up. But then the overall physical aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it is not going to be there. There was a disconnect. So having that emotional, that physical encounter with someone else, that's what she had actually wanted within her own marriage, within her own relationship. So by her stepping out of her marriage and sleeping with this handyman, we're going to call him, there was some sort of an emotional connection, more so with him rather than with her. To her, it was just more like fun, hey, I'm going to have sex. he's telling me all the right things. My husband doesn't tell me all the right things. We don't have sex. So once this encounter happened, it was the guy who actually became much more attached to her. And when all those different emotions started going on, saying, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But at the same time, she's kind of caught in between. I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, but it's fun. And I don't have this in my relationship. That she was really torn in regards to that, in regards to stepping out of her marriage. So this handyman, once she says, like, I can't do this anymore, he's mad. He is mad. So this person who she had this affair with, I feel, is the one who actually killed JonBenet Ramsey.
That would make sense, as he would know where to come in the house, like through a grate like that. He would know the window. He would know how big it is, that you could fit through it. I mean, he would know the ins and outs of the house, and he would know that that hidden room was there too, especially if he's a handyman and they're working on their basement. Because that whole basement wasn't completely done yet either. There was
that's
still,
right.
I mean, that room was not done at all. It was still just concrete and flooring. I mean, so they hid her in a space that was far from anything in the house. I mean, there was other rooms down there in the basement. Why pick the one that's just hidden off to the side that nobody is ever going into? Because it's there, and you can hide her in there, and she won't be found right away. But then it also makes sense about the letter too, because it was wrote in the house, with the pad, with the Sharpie, and an amount that somebody knew. Somebody knew the family. Somebody knew exactly how much money John was getting as a bonus. I mean, for Christmas. So that makes a lot of sense too, because it had to have been somebody that was familiar with the family. Because not everybody goes around saying, "Oh, I'm going to get $118,000 for my bonus." Everybody would not know that. It would just be people that they knew, people that are around them, that they tell things to. Or do you think Patsy wrote it, like a lot of people think?
I do feel that she wrote it. I feel that she was so torn because she knows that if she would not have had this affair, that this would not have ever happened. So, how people said she looks like she's so drugged up, her eyes, she's slurring her speech, whatever was said. But you can clearly tell that she was on some type of a antidepressant, right? But, I mean, as much as she really wanted to say something, she couldn't. She couldn't. So is she trying to do everything in her power to kind of move the attention away from them? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And a matter of fact, on that letter, I believe not she, but I believe that they actually did an handwriting analysis, and a lot of the ways that the letters were kind of fluctuating, the T's and the I's, the E's and the A's, pretty much matched, directly to how she actually wrote. You can always change your writing to look a certain way, but there are always going to be certain other letters that are going to not change.
Well, and as you're writing, you're thinking, oh, I need to make it look not like my writing.
Mm-hmm.
But as you're going and having a long letter like that, you're going to adapt back to the way you write. So there's going to be some things in there that match back to the person that wrote it. But at the same time, they're trying to change their writing too. But that letter was so long, there's no way that a person's going to be able to change their writing for that long without not thinking about it. You're writing this whole drawn out letter, and then you're like, oops, and you don't realize that you changed back to your writing, and then you're having to start writing again like you were trying to. And so I think that's where that comes from, because they also said when they did fingerprints, the only fingerprints on there were the authorities' fingerprints and Patsy's from grabbing it. So John's wasn't even on there at all.
Somebody who goes into somebody's home and they kill they kill anybody in that home, right? It doesn't have to be a kid. It could be an adult. And they are demanding some type of ransom. It's not going to be a long drawn out letter as if they're writing a letter to Santa Claus. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's going to be short, sweet, and simple. because they're in a rush to get out. And I mean, they're probably going to have doctor writing. You know, when you go to the doctors, they give you a prescription, and you're like, this just looks like scribble, like mumbo jumbo.
Right.
That's probably what it's going to look like. If you really look at that letter, you can tell that this person took their time.
Right.
They took their time writing this letter. So after when everybody left for the party and they go to bed, was Patsy Ramsey just like hanging out in the kitchen and writing this letter?
It's almost like, and they made a comment too that she was wearing the same clothes.
Yes.
So it's almost like, was she the one downstairs with the pineapple with JonBenet at that time? And did this guy, like, the intruders in the house sneak up on them? Like, or was she sleeping? I mean, it's just weird. Why would you keep the same clothes on too? I mean, I understand you get home late at night, but you would probably put pajamas on or something at the house. You wouldn't have just, slip your clothes back on again. Like, it's almost like you were in a hurry and you had to find something that was right there.
Which is what she probably did. And whatever that paper was, the letter that was written on that paper, was there more of that paper inside of the house?
Yeah, the whole notepad was.
Yeah,
they found the notepad and the Sharpie that was used was in the house.
It's unfortunate. We have this beautiful little girl. Who was just pretty much doing as her mom wanted her to do, right? Because we have to admit, the mom was living, vicariously living her life through her daughter, and going and this being the overall end result of it. That's really, really sad. She has missed out on so much of her life because of the things that her mom has done.
Yeah. And it would make sense that the DNA wouldn't match any of the family members either, because of it being somebody outside the home. No, nobody ever said that. I mean, they were cleared, but not cleared of maybe knowing who did it or having some kind of involvement in it, or a reason, or be the reason why somebody was in that house that night. It's almost like the anger part, when you feel so angry, you don't know what to do. And so you do things that you don't mean to do or you don't want to do, but you're just wanting to hurt the other person. It's almost like that was what is coming out of that, from you saying that it was somebody that she was having an affair with. That person just was so angry at her and had fallen for her that they just wanted to hurt her in a way that she would never recover from.
And that's what they did. And in regard to that, not only did they hurt the family, but they also hurt this little girl.
She didn't get to live her life. She was what, 6 years old?
Yes, she was 6 years old. She never had time to truly grow up and, go to your dumb school dances, things like that, or have those everyday arguments with your brother. It's really, really sad. It really is.
Well, and the brother, and look at all he's had to go through the years, and he didn't really get much of a life either, because he's been accused of it by so many people. I mean, how do you live after that? Especially when one of your sister is like one of the biggest cases that's unsolved.
I bet you if someone, like, let's say someone in law enforcement were to sit down with him and ask him, during the time when your sister went missing, was there anybody who came to the home to do any type of handyman work? He might not remember it like right then and there, but at the time afterwards, it's going to dawn on him. And he's going to say, you know what? Yes.
Wouldn't the dad know all the handyman and everybody they should have had a list of all this. The cops should have collected a list of everybody that worked in that house from that time frame. Not saying that they checked everybody, because of course they have the DNA profile, but by now they could have taken that DNA profile, allowed somebody to check that and match it back to who it goes to through like the genealogical search. I mean, already done. It takes a while, but that should have already been started like so long ago they could have already had answers for this, I believe. Um, Especially if they have a DNA profile that matches a male that doesn't match anybody in the family. Some of the friends have been excluded that did provide their DNA. They should have been able to clear everybody now. But at the same time, you have these companies that run that, and we've seen cases that are 50 years old that have been solved now because of those DNA genealogical searches, to where you could start with one point of a person and track it back. And then you could figure out if that person was in that vicinity, in that area, working at that house, doing whatever at the time of this murder. So you can put them in the vicinity, then you'd know exactly who it is. But it's almost like you almost wonder if they don't want to solve it after everything that they've done, with the police putting it on the family, on the dad, on the brother, on the mother. And it's like, why haven't we done everything we can do with the advancements we have now? Why are we waiting? Why not just get this case solved? This is like one of the biggest cases in the world. You would want to solve it, you would think.
Maybe they don't want to. Maybe if it ever is solved, maybe it will come to light that the police department totally dropped the ball on this. And we totally know that they did. Every square inch of that home should have been searched. Every square inch.
Everybody should have been questioned.
Yes.
From the get-go, instead of just allowing people to keep on going through and not stopping them, asking questions. They didn't do anything that they should have done for a regular search. And they could say they thought it was a kidnapping. That doesn't mean anything to me when you say, well, we thought it was a kidnapping. Okay, well, if it was a kidnapping, you still would want to be a crime scene. That's still a crime scene. She was taken from the home, so that becomes a crime scene. It was a crime scene from the get-go, no matter what angle you look at it.
And the entire house should have been blocked off.
Yep. Everything should have been blocked off.
You had a dinner party. Who were your friends? I need a list of every single one of them and their contact information. Who has been at your house just within the past week? Are there any gardeners? Did anybody, plumbers come to the house? Like, I want to know everything about your life from a week up until now. Where did you go? Who did you talk to? Who did you have dinner with? Who did you call your wife in front of whomever? Who are your coworkers? Where do you work?
And you can't look back to 1996 and say, well, that was different times. I understand that was different times, but at the same time, an investigation is an investigation. And okay, if it's a runaway, there I see where it used to be like different times, You assume they're a runaway, you don't really have a crime scene because that's what somebody's saying. But at this time you're saying, well, she was kidnapped. You have a letter. She was taken from the home. Nobody should enter. Everybody should be questioned. You have that process. You know how to work those things, because it's not like you haven't worked cases before, or there haven't been, investigations that your department has done at least a little bit on, to know that a crime scene is a crime scene. Not, if you didn't have a place where she was taken from, or you didn't know, or it was somewhere else, that would be a crime scene. I don't get it at all. The police really messed this one up. Really messed this one up from the get-go. That they did not do their job at all. They know better. They knew better. And they just let it happen.
No,
they let the Ramseys run all over them and do, I'm not saying that it was the Ramseys' fault particularly, but they were calling their friends, having them come over, and they let the Ramseys dictate that whole thing. Everything from the start of it.
No, it's very true. And then even up to now, we have this guy who says that he's the one who did it. And then he says, he kind of changes the story. He kind of goes back and forth. Well, there was two of us. I was there, but I didn't kill her. Okay, well, who is this other person? I don't want to say. This is the person who, because he's freaking lying. Literally,
he just wanted the attention.
Lying. Yes, I literally want to go and grab him by his neck and just kind of shake him a little bit, maybe till he's a little bit blue in the face,
Right.
But he's an attention seeker. He said he fell in love with JonBenet.
Yeah, after the case was over and you seen her on the news.
No, yeah, but even his DNA, it was checked and it came back to nothing.
Well,
So
yeah,
again,
and
it
then that's
kind
where
of,
he came up with the story that, oh, it wasn't me that did it, so I didn't touch her. But if you're in love with her and you're the one that's in love with her, why didn't you touch her? You know what I mean? Why? And then all of a sudden you change your story as soon as they get your DNA back and say, wasn't
and if
me.
you supposedly love her, why would you allow this other person to do those horrific things to her?
Right.
So he's going back and forth and he's contradicting his, his own self. And then even like today, they even say they're referencing the evidence and they're saying items turned over to the Boulder Police Department as evidence include fibers and hair from clothing and body surfaces, ligatures, clothing, swabs, oral swabs, paper bags from hands, fingernail clippings, jewelry, paper bags from feet, white body bags, samples of head hair, eyelashes and eyebrows, swabs from right and left thighs and right cheek, red top and purple top tubes of blood. We are now in 2025. Why have they not circled back to this and say, hey, we have some swabs. Let's run that through the database and see what we get.
And that's what the mom is trying to tell them to do. Like, or not the mom, sorry, the dad. The dad has been on this kick about doing that. He's wanting somebody to do that. He's been asking for that. I've read it all over. You get
Yeah.
his interviews, and he's saying, please. I mean, he's begging them to literally do it, and they won't do it. He even said that he would pay for it if it's a money issue or a funding issue, because sometimes, these law enforcement companies don't have the funding to send that stuff off. But there's people out there that will pay for this stuff. So the funding, I don't think is an issue at all. I think that's just, he's saying he will. I don't know what the police, you really can't get anything out of them. They won't tell you why they're not doing this and why they're not doing that. It's a mess. I mean, honestly, it's a mess.
So when it comes to the police department, just like I obviously don't live in Colorado. I live in LA. And Colorado is a huge and it's a busy state, just like Los Angeles. And when there is somebody who has dropped the ball, they are going to cover up for that person. It doesn't matter if it's 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. They're going to continuously cover up for this person because it's like the brotherhood, right? And I would be very, very surprised if any of this evidence that has been turned over to Boulder Police Department is still in their evidence.
So you
I will
think
be
maybe some
very,
of the
very
stuff's
surprised.
missing, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel that there's probably going to be missing things. Maybe like the swabs, um, things like that. Anything that's going to have DNA, I feel it's probably going to be missing. Now, is this the medium side of me talking or just the logical side? It's the logical side of me. Because if they really wanted this to be solved, they would have said, hey, let's get the evidence, run it through again. And not only that, but if it was a funding issue and the dad saying, hey, I will pay for it, I bet you Boulder, all the people who live in Colorado, regardless of if they're in Boulder or not, people around the world, they would donate $5, $10, even a single dollar, just to add to this fund so this evidence would be processed again. They would have millions, not only just within America, but just within the states, but even people in other countries, Europe, Spain. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's how huge this case is.
That's what I'm saying. You could get anything done with this case that you wanted to get done. Any testing done, anything you want. All you need to do is let people know, and people will come forward, do things for you. I mean, you got all these sleuths out there that will get out there. They'll do all kinds of stuff. I mean, granted, you don't want them involved in everything, but at the same time, you have people that are looking at things that see things that maybe you didn't see. It's always good to have somebody else's eyes in there. That's just my thought
Absolutely.
process.
No, it's very true. Very true. And, a lot of times the police department will say, well, we don't have the manpower. All right, you have 1,000,001 volunteers who will go and do the legwork. Tell us what it is that you need. And then all of a sudden they'll say, no, we can't do that because you're interfering with a police investigation. This is not a police investigation any longer. If you were investigating this, then shit would have got done. Evidence would have been, um, ran through additional databases even up to now. There would be no hesitation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The other cases, the 50-year-old cases, any case nowadays, because people back then weren't thinking of DNA. That wasn't a big deal. That wasn't the advancement then. So a lot of DNA was left around places or found in different places. And so now they're doing all these cases and doing this. But when you have somebody or tons of people out there just saying, do it, do it, do it, do it, and you won't respond, that just shows the lack of. Well, they've had so many people fired on this case too, because the last two investigators or whatever were fired because they weren't doing anything. So it's like, even though there's stuff in the news and things like DNA and things like that, they weren't doing anything and they got rid of them. And then to put more people on it, that's just a waste of time to me, that you're just sitting there not doing anything on the case. I mean, you could be looking at these sleuth things online and seeing what people are saying. The person that did it could be on there. I mean, you definitely could find out a lot of information if you just do some research. But it's like the police don't want to. They don't want this case solved. They don't want to do the extra legwork on it. They just want to leave it alone to where it was because they messed up from the get-go. And if it comes out that they were blaming somebody other than who it really was, then oops, they were bad. But you might as well just rip off the Band-Aid because everybody already knows the Ramsey's DNA did not match. So we know it wasn't them that you were blaming from the get-go. So now we need to look other places and just get it over with. Just be like, yeah, like everybody says, I messed up. We did look at this certain way, but now we've looked at what we did wrong and we've learned from it and we've moved forward with it on other cases. But here we are. We're going to fix our problem. We're going to go out. We're going to run the DNA, do the genealogy portion of it. We're going to find out who it was. And then we're going to get this case solved so that we can close it once and for all and give everybody peace of mind. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to just say, oops, messed up. Let's just fix it.
No, that's very true. And maybe they're afraid of now because it's been so long. Maybe they're afraid of, lawsuits. Maybe their image looking bad. I have no idea. But either way, their image has already been tarnished. It's already been thrown to the deep end of the ocean because they really messed this one up.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it's really messed up. But now you can just fix it. You just apologize. Everybody knows that people make mistakes. Everybody knows we blame people for things that aren't really, we've all done it, blamed people for things that aren't true, that we thought was the case. And then it turned out it wasn't the case. And I mean, look at all these people that are on death row that get taken off because they didn't do it, because DNA came to light and found that they didn't. Those people have to eat their words and then come out and apologize and say, we made a mistake. We have the DNA to prove it. We understand, it was a bad mistake. That person was in prison for 20 years, but now we have to let them go. And then, the real person now has to be charged and taken into custody. I mean, it's just something that happens because we're human. And DNA has become advanced so much that now we can really find the person that did the thing. Even though at the time the facts might have matched up to make it look like somebody else did it, or we kind of curved the facts to make it look like somebody else did it. And we're finding out we made mistakes on certain cases. So we're having to eat our words on those and then come back and figure out who really did it. So this is one of those cases where, you took years to blame the wrong person and blame the wrong people that actually physically killed her. But now you need to take the time and figure out who did it and get it done with, because it's been long enough now. It's just kind of getting crazy now and ridiculous at this point.
Well, that's why there's so many, cases that go unsolved. Yeah. And I mean, I kind of just Googled the age of the parents. So they're saying here that the mom was born in 1956 At the time of her death, she was 49 years old, but the father was born in 1943 and currently is 81 years old. So who's to even say that this person who has killed JonBenet Ramsey is even still alive?
Right. I mean, anything could have happened. I mean, a person that's, no matter what age you are, you could pass away at, at any given time. So, yeah, they could have definitely, I mean, he could have passed away a year after. The person could have passed away just last year. I mean, we're taking our time on this because especially if and they may not have been around their age. They could have been younger too. You think back to like handymen and people that worked around houses, and like I always think the pool guys because everybody always talks about how people have a pool man and that's who the lady has an affair with, blah blah, because it's just what people look at, but they could have been a younger man too, and it could have just been attracted to her and it just made her feel good about herself, and that's where we're not looking at that. We looked at them completely and didn't look around. And then when we did, it's too late because you don't know. Nobody knows who was there, who wasn't there, who came in and out. I mean, the records weren't kept good at all, like of anybody that was involved. So, I mean, yeah, definitely could have been somebody right around there.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. So, all right. Well, I think that's probably going to wrap up our JonBenet podcast.
We can always talk about it later too. There's always more. We can always hit back on JonBenet later on down the road and have a second portion of it, because we could definitely get into, people that they've looked at, reasons they've looked at them, different links in the case. I mean, we can go into a whole bunch. So
no,
they always hit on it later.
True. That's true.
Of course, if anybody has any questions, anybody has anything they want to talk to us about, we have an email address. It's sleuthsunleashed@gmail.com. You can always email us. And if there's cases you want us to talk about, again, there's that too. You can email us and let us know. Of course, we can't hit on every one. We do have some cases coming out that we like to hit on lately. The next case I think we were going to talk about is Alyssa Turney. So that'll be our next podcast. A missing girl from Phoenix, Arizona in 2001, where her stepfather is the suspect. So, or was the person of interest. I don't know how you want to classify him. So that'll be our next podcast. But of course, like I said, we can always come back to JonBenet. And if there's cases that you guys want us to talk about, we can always look into those too to see if we can fit that in to when we don't have any on our case files. But we can always look into different ones and try to fit as many in as we can.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yes, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on Sleuths Unleashed, Unraveling Criminal Cases. We hope today's episode sparked your curiosity and gave you a fresh perspective on the art of crime solving. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with fellow sleuths. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and until next time, keep unraveling the mysteries of the world. Thank you for joining us on Sleuths Unleashed, Unraveling Criminal Cases. We hope today's episode sparked your curiosity and gave you a fresh perspective on the art of crime solving. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with fellow sleuths. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and until next time, keep unraveling the mysteries of the world.